Hello, welcome to the Bearded Tits podcast, hosted by me, Jack Perks. Professionally, I'm a wildlife cameraman, but I dabble in podcasting, and each Tuesday we release an episode as I have a chat with scientists, artists, filmmakers, and passionate people all about nature in a light-hearted and certainly not serious way. Hello and welcome to the Bearded Tits podcast. I'm your host, Jack Perks. Now this week I've got Dr. Jessica Thomas coming on the podcast to talk about the platypus. Now they're a species that I've always been fascinated with. They just don't look like they're real. They look like a kid's kind of come up with this and a crayon and a piece of paper. But they are real and they are fascinating. So I was in Melbourne, Australia for a couple of weeks in the beginning of April. And I absolutely loved it. What an amazing place. I got to see kangaroos. I got to see all kinds of different creatures. Didn't see a single wild snake and didn't see any spiders. So, you know, like the kind of stereotype that Australia is full of snakes and spiders. I'm not saying they aren't there. I'm just saying I didn't see any and I had a look for them as well. It was incredible though. I was absolutely a kid in a candy shop. I've always wanted to do Australia. I visited Melbourne Zoo, which was phenomenal. And that's when I first got to see a platypus, Sam, I think his name was. And he was amazing, just diving down, catching yabbies. And it's a relatively well-lit exhibit. Now, one of the sister organisations to Melbourne Zoo is Hillsville Sanctuary. And that's where I've recorded today's podcast. So I went along to that, went to go meet Jessica. We're stood over a creek where there have been platypus seen. And we get into it about the platypus. They're an amazing creature. Before I do that, however, I want to let you know about buymeacoffee.com. So this podcast is completely independent, which means that I don't get any advertising money. The only way that I can make these episodes is via you, the listener, donating. I'm only asking for the price of a coffee or a pint, about $5. If you want to donate more, that's always great. It means that I can keep independent. I don't have to do what advertisers tell me what to do. I can choose what subjects I want to cover, and it means that I can make a more interesting and, in my eyes, a more authentic podcast. So if you can do that, there's a link in the description. That would really, really help me out. So let's get into today's podcast. I'm stood in Hillsville Sanctuary, just outside of Melbourne, chatting to Jessica about the platypus. Here's our chat.
Well, welcome to the podcast, Jess.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Do you want to just tell me your background and then where we are today? Because people might be thinking there's a few noises behind us. So.
Yes. So we are in the beautiful Hillsville Sanctuary at the moment, standing on the bridge over Corrandirt Creek, which is a tributary of the Yarra River. And it has a weir just upstream from here and flows steadily year round. So I've been working at Hillsville Sanctuary for just over 17 years now. I don't know where that time went. And I am the platypus specialist here.
That is a hell of a job title.
Yes. There's not many people in the world can say that that's what their job is.
No. And so we're standing over this river. So obviously we could get, well, if we're very lucky, we could see one, but you've got them here on site as well, haven't you?
Yeah, there's quite a good wild population that lives here. I've been studying them since 2012, so half of my job is looking after the residents here. We've got 7, but then the other half of my job is doing lots of research projects. Part of that research that I do is studying this population because there's so much that we don't know about the platypus. And I've got the platypus right here in my backyard. So what better place to learn about how they behave in the wild than right here?
So I'm guessing most people listening will probably know what one is, but let's just assume people don't. Can you just explain like what a platypus is?
Sure. So a platypus is an Australian mammal. They are only found here in Australia and in freshwater creeks, rivers, lakes and streams, but only on the east coast.
Is that right? I did not know that.
Yeah, so they're not found over in Western Australia. Largely probably because there's a big desert between
that would put a dampener on things, wouldn't it? Yeah.
The nice fresh water over on the east coast. But they're actually a really old mammal. So they're one of the first kinds of mammal that has ever existed. And so because of that, they actually have a lot of reptilian characteristics to them. So what makes a mammal is they need to have fur and they need to feed their young with milk. So platypus has both of those things. But they do have a few qualities that link them back to their reptile ancestry. So the males are venomous, just like a snake. They produce venom in a very similar way, but they don't use it for attracting or acquiring food. They use it to beat up other males.
Yeah,
They
obviously
still,
you would. Yeah.
They still produce the venom. And the females lay eggs. And a lot of people will say, oh, just like a bird. But no, not like a bird, like a lizard. So their eggs are soft-shelled, which is what reptiles lay. So they've got those couple of features there that really link them back to that history.
Because am I right in saying, like, when people first brought platypus back to Europe, they thought they were a hoax? They were like, this can't be real.
Exactly. They went looking for the stitches.
Yeah.
And they thought the naturalists were playing a practical joke on them. And it actually took a little while before they accepted that the platypus was a real animal.
I don't know if this is true. I like the idea that a platypus is the only animal that could make its own custard because it makes milk and eggs.
I don't know if that's true. But I
and
have
then they
heard
got a
that
little
one
kitchen.
before.
Got a little kitchen, yeah.
Yeah.
So how big is a platypus? Because I mean, I've already seen one at Melbourne Zoo, and I was kind of surprised at the size. But yeah, do you want to just say? How big
So they're a lot smaller than what a lot of people think. So probably about 30-40 centimetres in length.
Yeah.
And on average, the adults here on the mainland probably between 1 and 2 kilos, depending on if you're a male or a female.
Yeah.
They get a little bit bigger down in Tassie. They can sort of be between 2 and 3 kilos
okay.
for females and males down there. But I think, a lot of people, when they see images of a platypus, there's nothing for context in the background. There's no feature that you know how big it is, so you know how large what you're looking at is. It's a platypus swimming through water or on the surface, and so it could be any size, really.
It's the reverse of beavers. Like when I see beavers back home, like, bloody hell, they're massive. So yeah, people don't realise. What do platypus eat?
So they are generalist carnivores. So they're meat eaters. No vegetarians here. But they feed on macroinvertebrates. So they'll pick up really any kind of bugs that are living in the bottom of the creek or the river that they're living in. So the most common food items that they'll eat are things like dragonfly larvae, caddisfly larvae, aquatic snails, pea mussels, glass shrimp, crayfish.
Oh, you're making me hungry.
Worms, mosquito larvae, that sort
good.
of stuff.
Yeah.
They'll eat all of those, and very occasionally they might come across some frog eggs or fish eggs or a little tiny fish or something like that, but that seems to be more unusual than the other prey items.
And am I right in saying there's been a lot of trouble trying to breed them in captivity for a lot of years? So, like, what's the reasoning behind that?
Well, we just don't really know very much about their core biology. If you think about a lot of other species, we know the very basics of their biology, and we've known that for hundreds of years. Whereas we still haven't seen a platypus lay an egg.
Really?
Yeah, like we don't actually know the exact duration that they incubate the eggs. Like, we know that they do it. We know that echidnas do it, which is their closest relative. And we obviously see a baby platypus come out at the end, and we're seeing an egg at the start. So we can draw the conclusion, but we haven't actually seen that stuff yet for the platypus. And so, when you're trying to breed them here, we're trying to replicate what they do in the wild, but we don't know what they do in the wild. So we're guessing. It's
frustrating, but anyway, it's kind of nice that there's still a couple of mysteries out there.
That's what I think I like most about them. Even after 17 years, I'm still challenged by them.
Yeah, that's
I've never got to a point where I think I know everything about this species. If anything, I've got more questions now than when I first started.
Yeah, that's good. What's the reason for no platypus outside of Australia? Because I was thinking there must be some outside, but am I right in saying there's no platypus in zoos outside of Australia?
No.
Sorry, in zoos outside, yes.
Yes, they are, but only recently. San Diego Safari Park.
Oh, they have got some now.
Has acquired 2.
Okay.
And throughout history, there have been the occasional one that has attempted to go to another country, but they just haven't really survived very long there.
Right. So if you want to see a platypus captive or wild, you've got to come down under, basically.
And I kind of like that.
No, I do.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like the one I saw at Melbourne Zoo, I was so ecstatic just to see that. I mean, a wild one would be great as well, don't get me wrong, but just seeing it like really quick.
Yeah, there's something about seeing them through the water
as
well, and seeing that aspect of them, because it's great to see them in the wild, but you don't get to see it through that plane.
No, the exhibit there was phenomenal. It was really good. How's Hillsville kind of helping the platypus then? What are you kind of doing towards conservation?
Yeah, so it's been a big part of our history here, and it always has been since we first opened. And we're just about to open the Australian Platypus Conservation Centre here, which has been a real milestone for us.
Well, just point out we are along a public footpath at the minute, so there may be the odd bit of noise coming through.
Holidays.
It's the school holidays. Yeah, I know it. No worries. Cheers, guys. Yeah.
So the Australian Platypus Conservation Centre, it's got a research component to it. It's got an incredible visitor display that really replicates the wild environment, and it's largely based on a lot of the science, a lot of data that I've collected on what the animals need. It's also got a rescue and rehabilitation facility attached to it for injured platypus that get brought into our wildlife hospital.
Is that common? Do you get many of those? Or?
We do get a few, an increasing number over the last few years. So we've had 3 come in the last 12 months that have been from dog attacks.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow,
and we've also had another juvenile that was displaced from unknown reasons. He was quite an odd circumstance, but we released him late last year back up at Mount Borbor, where he was from.
What was the odd circumstance? There's a story there.
He was a juvenile, but he was found in the middle of a road with no water with him. And even when I went to return him, I went to this spot where he's found because I had the GPS, and I stood there and I walked up and down the road and I could not find any water. So I don't know how he got there.
He's just booking the trends there.
Yeah.
So what are the kind of main threats for the platypus? What are they facing?
Us.
Same with most animals, unfortunately, isn't it? Yes.
Probably. Look, there's a range of things. I mean, they're dependent upon one of Australia's most vulnerable resources, which is fresh water.
Yes.
So things like drought is particularly concerning from them. They are very resilient species, so they can cope with very dynamic and changing aquatic environments. They will go to where conditions are better. But humans have changed how water flows naturally as well. We've put dams and weirs like that in, so it's not flowing how it used to, which is isolating some populations, meaning they can't get to where conditions are better.
Right.
So that's a particular concern for them.
Yes. Yeah.
And then the other issues that they face are very similar ones to a lot of species, and it's foxes and dogs, particularly around here.
Of course, yeah.
These sorts of areas, falling predation to those non-native species.
Yes.
But also things like fishing line and fishing traps and things like that.
So I saw the
lot.
shrimp pots are banned here, aren't they? Or
the opera house yabby nets, because they swim into them and they get stuck and they drown. They're a mammal, so they're air breathing. Need to be able to come back up to the surface.
How big's the territory for a platypus? Have they got do they have quite big territories? Do they overlap?
It's an excellent question that you're asking, and it's lucky that someone has a few research projects on the go.
That's very handy, isn't it?
Yeah, look, it seems to be. It depends on how much food is in that system and how clean and productive that system is.
Right.
So the more food that you have, the smaller territory you're going to have, and then the less food there is, perhaps the larger territory. Females tend to have smaller territories than males, which also have the added burden of needing to secure a large space with lots of females. So the number of animals in the area will influence how much space a male needs.
Yeah.
If there's not many, he might try and have a big territory.
Yeah.
But if there's lots of females, he might be happy with just a smaller one.
Because you were saying through the creek here, was it 15, 16, 17 of them on here?
At any one time.
Wow.
Yeah, so I've caught 37 different individuals since 2012. Half of them are juveniles.
Okay.
So the juvenile females, they stay and they live their lives here, and then the boys disperse.
They go
down to the Yarra and off somewhere to, I'm optimistic they've made a nice home for themselves somewhere.
Yeah, hopefully.
But then the adult males also come and go a little bit from here too.
Right. And how long do they live? Are they long-lived platypus or?
They can be. So one of our girls is about to turn 32 years old.
32? I'm 33, so that's a year younger than me.
But she's also exceeded life expectancy by quite a number of years. She's a little bit blind and a little bit deaf. But that's okay. She doesn't need those sensors when she lives here, because when she dives underwater, she uses her electroreception to find her food. So they're
not using eyesight at all when they're diving?
Only on the surface.
Right.
So if she was in the wild, I'm not sure she would have avoided a predator.
Yeah, of course.
Without that vision. But here she's able to feed herself perfectly well.
Wow.
The oldest one ever caught in the wild was a male at 24, and not too far from here either. Actually, so they're really hard to sort of work out how old they are.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. It's not like you can cut one in half and count the rings, is it?
No, you've got to catch it as a juvenile to know, and then catch it however long later to know its age. So the oldest one I've caught in this creek is a male who is greater than 14. So I caught him as an adult, and I caught him 12 years later.
Incredible.
So I know he's at least 14 years old. But the most frustrating part of that story is I caught him the very first year that I trapped, and then I didn't catch him for 12 years, even though I surveyed every year, and then I caught him a couple of years ago.
That's crazy.
And so he's avoided me for that long.
What did you do?
Good for him. Good for him.
You mentioned like some of the non-native predators. Do they have natural predators? I mean,
Not a lot of them.
no.
They're kind of, I guess, as much as they can be an apex predator within this waterway.
Yeah.
We don't really have a lot of aquatic-based predators.
Be a big Murray cod to eat one of those,
I have
wouldn't
heard a story, but every fisherman
I
has
know,
a
yeah,
story
don't-
about a Murray cod that was that big and had
no.
a platypus in its belly.
Yeah,
and,
no, I'm
and all of
an
that.
angler as well. We're a bunch of liars. Don't listen
so
to a
if
word
you
we
say
say.
the fish is that big, it's actually probably that big.
But they can get big. Not
Yeah,
to
they
not to
can.
divert this podcast to Murray
No.
cod now, because I was told there's a Murray cod on
Yeah,
site,
his
which
name's
is
Dave.
I'm Dave the Murray. Oh,
Yeah.
I'll go chat with Dave in a bit. But they can get big, can't they? So I
Yes.
guess in theory,
And I can see how a Murray cod would take a platypus. There's a reason I don't house the two species together.
Yes,
Because
yeah.
cods are ambush predators. They sit there and they wait,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
a platypus with its eyes closed under the water will just
Yeah.
swim past and plop.
yeah, you in theory you could see how it happens.
I mean, I have heard stories about like pythons up in Queensland.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I speculate that the presence of the crocodile probably limits their northern distribution.
Is there no overlap? Do they not tend
Not
to?
a lot.
Okay.
So yeah, you sort of don't really find the platypus past Cairns.
Right, that's
So
interesting.
you start where the crocodiles start showing up.
That kind of
the
makes sense,
platypus
doesn't
kind
it?
of
Yeah.
Stops. Yeah.
That kind of makes sense. Doesn't it?
Yeah.
I guess what most people are going to want to know is if they come to Victoria and they want to see a platypus, what kind of tips? I wouldn't say locations because obviously they move, but
Yes.
for tips for seeing platypus, give me your best platypus spotting tips.
Oh, look, probably sunset
Okay.
or sunrise are the best times for humans because we are not very well designed for seeing them. They're little brown animals. They live in a brown habitat. They spend their time underwater and underground, and they're nocturnal.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind. So our eyesight still works reasonably well at sunset and sunrise.
Yeah.
Probably sunset more.
Yeah.
You just need to sit quietly on the edge of probably a still pool because they
Okay.
do feed a lot in the pools where the water's quite still, whereas the fast-flowing areas they tend to use as more like a highway. They
I suppose
move in
easier to
between.
spot on a still pool as well because it's.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's a little brown thing, but rather than riffles, it might hide a little bit better.
Yeah, and
so-
they will dive a lot. So they'll dive down for anywhere from 20 seconds up to a minute. And then they'll pop up to the surface, and that's where they chew their food and take a breath. So that's where you're going to see them.
Yeah.
There's also, I find there's a bit of a telltale sign of bubbles. Now, a lot of fish release bubbles too.
Yeah.
But they've got two really thick layers of fur, and they actually trap a bubble layer in that fur as well, which helps with their waterproofing. But it means as they dive, you get a few bubbles sort of come out through the fur that you can see up on the surface.
We have the same thing with otters back home.
Yeah,
so when
yeah,
we
very similar.
when I go looking for otters, I look for that trail of bubbles going along. So yeah, that's good
and
to know.
often you can see a bit of, they'll stir up the sediment as they go along because they use their bills as a shovel.
Yeah.
And they move all the gravel and the substrate around a bit, so you can see sort of a bit of a mess turning up.
So essentially, if you're in Victoria, pretty much any river system, you've got a
Look,
chance.
they're found in a lot of them.
Yeah.
Probably the more inner city ones,
I'm
less likely.
Just breathing in to avoid getting ran over as a It's all right. You go for it.
Probably around the more urban areas, like around the inner city, probably less likely
Less
to
likely,
see one.
yeah,
But
okay.
as you start to head out into the suburbs and
Yeah.
around any of the major catchments and things like that, there is platypus out there.
And if you can't see a wild one, you can obviously come to Hillsville and
That's a
see
great
what.
place to see them. Some beautiful displays here.
Yeah.
You can see our old girl Flay, and not that I have favourites, but if I did, there's also our boy Milsom. He's a 22-year-old male who's been hand raised.
And the enclosure, is it reverse time? You were saying, yeah.
So day is night and night is day for them.
Okay.
So they're active when we're here. And then the lights come on after we go home and they think it's daytime and they go to bed.
Oh, fabulous!
Yeah.
So if people if they want to visit Hillsville, if they want to find out more about it, where's the best place to direct them?
So you can check out the website, which is www.zoo.org.au. We are open every single day of the year. We are open Christmas Day, we are open Good Friday. Every day of the year someone is here looking after animals, and we're also open to visitors.
I mean, I could talk all day about platypus, but I know you're a very busy woman.
Yes.
It's been absolutely fantastic to talk about them. There's probably been one behind me when I've not been.
Oh, did you
looking-
want to know?
No, it's all right. It's all right. But look, absolute pleasure chatting to you, and thanks for coming on.
My pleasure, thank you.
That was Jess Thomas. Fantastic to chat to Jess. And thanks to Hannah and the rest of the Hillsville team for kind of helping organise this and having me along and humouring me. I did have a walk around the sanctuary while I was there. It's phenomenal. I mean, the thing that I really like about it is that they basically combine a zoo with an actual kind of nature reserve almost. So yeah, you can see wildlife obviously in the zoo part of the reserve, but you could just have an echidna walk out, or there are snakes that are just basking at the side. It's phenomenal. Australia seems to have this really kind of amazing knack to combine things in a really good way. So a lot of their sanctuaries, their nature reserves, have barbecue areas, which I think is mainly to try and stop people setting up barbecues and setting off bushfires. But it just means that you can go and literally bring some food and crack on. It's a really, really good system out there. But I can't recommend it. If you're in the Melbourne area in Australia, definitely check out Melbourne Zoo, and 100% check out Hillsville Sanctuary. I had an amazing time. I absolutely loved it. The platypus enclosure is phenomenal. It's on a rotary system, so obviously day is night, night is day. So when you're there, it's their night time, and you can see them swimming around. They're absolutely rapid. And they actually also do platypus encounters. So you can put some waders on, you can get in the enclosure, and you can not swim, but you're in there with a platypus. If I'm ever back in Melbourne, I'm 100% doing that. That looked phenomenal. They weren't running them at the time when I was there, but when I'm back, and I'm sure I will be, I would absolutely love to do that. So yeah, an amazing experience, and I've learned a lot about an animal that I didn't really know much about. Now, for the British listeners, I'm going to be at the Global Bird Fair. This is running from the 11th of July till the 13th of July. I'm going to be doing a few things. I'm actually going to have a stall, so I'm going to be there selling my wares, so to speak. I'm going to have my book, which has just come out. I'm going to have posters, calendars, prints, all that sort of stuff. Come along and have a chat with me. I'll be there all 3 days. I would love to meet some of the listeners. I'm also going to be setting up some aquariums on the stall with some critters in there for people to come and have a look at. So if you want to come see some non-birdie things at Bird Fair, I'll be there all 3 days. Come and say hello. I'd love to chat to some of the people along. I've got a talk on the Saturday. I think it's on the Saturday at 12 o'clock. I think on the Plover stage. I'll have to double check that. But I'm going to be talk about Britain's hidden fishes. I'm going to be talking about my work with UK fish, and you can come and see some of the footage, some of the images that I've been doing. I'll be selling the book. Bloomsbury will be selling the book. Wild Sounds will be there. They'll be selling the book. So you can either get a book from me, or you can go to one of the other stalls and get a book. I'm more than happy to sign it at the event. If you've already bought a book and you want to bring it along and I'll sign it. No problem at all. I'll do that. I'm going to be on the podcast stage as well. So if you want to see a live podcast, I will be doing that. I haven't found a guest yet, but I'm trying to find a guest who's maybe not quite so birdie, do something a little bit different. So yeah, all 3 days from the 11th to the 13th of July, I'll be at Bird Fair. I would love to see some of you. This has been the Bearded Tits Podcast. I've been your host, Jack Perks, and I'll see you next Tuesday. Cheers.